Does your server look like this? Or are you interested in starting up Unraid for the first time? Do you want it to look like this by the time you're done? Or even better? Then this is the series for you. Welcome to our new series, Unraid from Zero to Hero. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Unraid from scratch, installing and setting up your first Unraid server. This series is about building an Unraid server from the ground up. Fresh, clean, nothing pre-configured, so you can follow every step with me. By the end, you'll hopefully have a secure, powerful server for storage, apps, and self-hosting. No guesswork, no skipped steps. What is Unraid? Unraid is an operating system based on Linux and runs off your USB stick. It's a hybrid between a NAS and a VM host, as well as being able to run Docker containers. It has flexible storage options where you can mix and match drives, and it's perfect for the home lab, media server, or any other self-hosting tasks you can throw at it. One of the great features of Unraid is that it's really a community-driven ecosystem. Things like plugins, Docker containers, etc. We'll cover storage, apps, VMs, and even security. But today, we start at square one. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it. So, the first thing you're probably going to want to do is buy a license. The best part is if you're not sure yet and you just wanted to try it out, you can also get a 30-day trial of the unlimited license. That way you can try it out to your heart's content and then come back and purchase it when you feel ready. If you are planning to buy a license, we really would appreciate your support by using the affiliate link in our description so that we can all benefit from your new purchase. So you've got three different plans that you can choose from. You've got the starter, the unleashed, and the lifetime license packages. With the starter option, you can get 6 storage devices included, 1 year of free operating system updates, and all Unraid OS features. If you're looking at the unleashed license, the one in the middle, it's $109 per license, unlimited storage devices, 1 year of free OS updates, and all the rest that you also get with the starter pack. And then finally, you have the lifetime license. As the name suggests, it's for the lifetime of the product, unlimited storage devices, and free OS updates for the life of your license. All OS updates included, and it's perpetual lifetime license, just like the other two that we have here as well. So it's pretty good. You get to basically buy it once, do what you need to do, and the only part that you really need to consider is the OS updates. If we just highlight over here, you can see here it says, after your first year, continue receiving those updates for an optional $36 per year, which is pretty fair price. Depends how you want to look at it. I think it's still relatively simple. I've purchased the lifetime license. We're a big user of Unraid here, so we stuck with the lifetime license. The next thing you want to do is get a USB setup. Unraid runs off of a USB stick. So that means we need to have a USB that's available for us to use. And I really wouldn't cheap out on this, guys. If you are looking to go into Unraid, find a decent USB stick. Better the quality, the better chance of having a successful server in the long run. As I suggested before, you can also get your free trial, 30 days, lets you try out the product and see how you go. So if you wanted to skip the licensing part, start here by creating your USB and you'll have the option to start a free trial once we get set up. You have different options for either Windows or Mac. Use the creator for Windows if you're on Windows, and then we'll get started. There are several steps already outlined here, which the team have done a great job of explaining for you. So as you can see, here is the creator. It's up and running. And once you start it up, you get to choose the OS version that you want. I would recommend you start with the latest. So especially if you're starting fresh, you might as well start with the latest and then choose a USB stick. So we can see our USB come up and you'll notice this unique GUID. That means the license will be attributed to this particular USB stick. You can move the license to another one if you wish. There's a separate process for that. So we've picked our OS version, we've got our USB stick we want to use, and we're going to go ahead and prepare it. So after we hit next, it will give us the option to configure the name of our server. By default, it will just be tower. And then also if you want to set a static IP or leave it as DHCP. I prefer setting static, so I normally tend to do that. Obviously, this is going to depend on your setup at home, wherever you're setting up, and the network you've got set up there as well. But for me, I've given it a static IP of 192.168.1.200. Netmask is fine. The gateway is obviously our router's gateway is .1. And with DNS, I like to hard configure this to something specific rather than grabbing it from our router. Now, I have a reason for that, but I'll get into that later on. Once you're ready and you're comfortable, go ahead and click continue. So as the name suggests, everything's going to be wiped on this USB, so make 100% sure you're going to do this. And when you're ready, go ahead and click yes. Okay, so we created our USB and we put it into our server. On our actual server in the BIOS, we made sure that the boot sequence started our USB first. We don't want to be booting off the disks on the actual machine. We want to be booting from the USB. Be sure to set it in your actual settings to always boot from the USB first so that you can avoid an unexpected reboot doing nothing. Now, if all goes well, you should see the terminal come to a point where it says Unraid login. Rather than logging into the terminal, which you can do if you wish, I would come over to your nearest computer where you have a web browser and type in the IP address that you set for the server. If you don't know what that is and you left it on DHCP, we'll tell you in the terminal what IP it managed to get. So use that IP. So all I did was type that IP into my browser, in this case 192.168.1.200, hit enter, and it took me to the Unraid screen. Now the first screen you'll see is actually a screen asking you to create your new admin password. This is going to be your root password. All right, so make sure it is super secure and something you'll be able to remember. Use a password generator and a password vault if you have one. If you don't have one, hopefully this server will be one that you can host one on. But for the minute, just make sure it's something really secure. Now at that point, all I've done is log out so I can show you the login screen. And now you have a brand new server with me here at IBRACORP. So we type in the root username and the password we created and go ahead and click login. And you're probably going to see something like this on your first ever start. So this is the perfect point for us to take a break, grab a cup of coffee, and come back to start configuring. If you'd like to share more of your wisdom or learn from others, feel free to join our Discord server. You can find the link down in our description below, where nearly 9,000 members come and join our Discord to share their ideas and help drive the community message that we are here at IBRACORP. You can also visit our new shop, now live at shop.ibracorp.io. You can find all of our brand new merch and awesome gear here on IBRACORP's very own shop website. By purchasing IBRACORP merch, you can help support the channel, as well as pick up some pretty cool merch for you and your loved ones. We take ideas and all of our designs from our community, as well as our own, and we've tried very hard to make sure that the merch is of the highest quality possible. You can also support the channel by becoming a member of our channel here on YouTube. We really appreciate all the support we get from our community members. Thank you, and we appreciate supporting the channel. As we said, we start on the main screen. The reason why Unraid is throwing you onto the main screen is because we haven't configured our disks yet, and it's showing us all of the unassigned devices, which you can see down here. Now remember, this is brand new. I haven't made any configuration changes, and the white color of the screen is probably burning your eyes. So what I'm going to do first, before I even touch these, is show you how to customize Unraid, make it look a little bit easier on the eyes, especially for those who have been asking about our setup on our main server and how to make it look the same. So I'm going to show you right now how to do that. The first thing we need to do is go to settings and find display settings over here. If you like any settings that you frequently go to, you can always hit the little heart icon and it will add it to your favorites. You can then access all your favorites through the favorites option at the top of the window. Okay, so now we're inside the display settings options. First thing I like to do is come down to the color theme. I'm going to change that to black. We'll scroll down and hit apply, and you'll see it's given us a nice black background. That's great. The next thing I do is I'll apply a color to the header custom text, and I like to set this particular color for my servers. The other setting I'll also change is the header custom background color, which I'll set to that color there, and we'll hit apply. And sure enough, we now have what I like to consider a dark theme for Unraid. Much easier on my eyes, especially because I've become a bit of a dark theme addict, that any sort of white light seems to burn my retinas. So I'm probably doing myself more harm than good in the long run, but either way, Dang, it looks good, doesn't it? Okay, with those two simple changes done, we can now go back to working on the rest of the server. What we're going to do now is set up our array. Now, our array is one of the most important things in Unraid because that's where all of our data gets stored in various different ways. The first thing you want to do is assign your array devices. So up the top here, we've got various different options for our array. Under slots, you can select a minimum of 3 and up. Now, why it gives you that option is because we have 2 options for our parity disk. The parity disk should be the biggest disk in your array and assigned to the parity. This will allow Unraid to write changes to the parity as things are taking place. So if we lose disk 1, we can always recover by having the parity disk. It pretty much is the core redundancy when it comes to how Unraid handles your data and protection. So you really do want to be using a parity disk. So what I'm going to do here is select one of my 2 terabytes. That can be my parity, and then the rest can be my disks. So what I'll do then, okay, so we've set 1 disk as our parity. We have the option to set 2 if we had 2 that we want to use. I'm just going to use 1, and then I've assigned all the other disks as well. Then we'll set up pool devices. This is where we can set up things like cache disks. Really important for us because when we want to write data to our array, some of that data sometimes can go to an SSD instead. If you have an SSD set up, this is the best time to get that configured. So we'll go to add pool, we'll leave it as a default name cache and give it a slot of 1. If you have more disks that you want to use for your cache or SSDs, go ahead and select the appropriate number, but I'm just going to pick 1. Now in here, we can see that I have a USB stick inside of my server. I don't have a dedicated SSD, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. Just as long as you're making sure you're not putting anything to do with your flash disk in the array anywhere. It won't let you do that anyway, but just worth noting that this is a separate disk. It's not the same as my boot disk. I'm going to set that as the cache, and then we're going to be happy and ready to roll. So what we can do is click start. Once we click start, all the stuff on these disks will be wiped. So just be aware of that before you start. It will ask you to confirm whether you want to proceed. Now that we've started, we can see that the array is up here. However, there are some disks that are not in the correct format that Unraid wants to see. Before you format them though, it's worth going into our settings again. Go to disk settings and then have a review here on some of those settings. There are various different file systems we can choose when it comes to the disks in the array. By default, XFS will be selected, but you also have things like ZFS as well. For the sake of our tutorial, I won't be using ZFS and will remain with XFS. You'll also see another option here called Enable Auto Start. This will auto start your array when the server starts up. Typically, you do want that to happen. If there's a reason you don't, you can leave it as no. But I'm going to go ahead and click yes. We'll come back to the main tab and we will look at formatting all of these disks. So what I need to do is confirm and then go ahead and hit format. Now we can see on the right hand side that currently Unraid is formatting those disks for us. And as you can see, after it formats a disk, it then mounts them for us. So it's starting to mount them now. And there we go. Our array is online and it's been started. The first thing Unraid will do is begin a parity operation. Now this can take quite some time, okay? Depending on the size of your parity disk, it can take a while. So you need to be patient. I really wouldn't recommend running through and doing anything with the server until the array completes the parity checks. You can see for the size of our disk here, which is a 2 terabyte, it's going to take around close to 4 hours to complete. Sometimes that might happen quicker, but I really wouldn't mess around too much until this process has completed. Some other things we can look at while this is doing its thing is we'll go back into our settings and we'll look at something like Docker. Now we can enable it. Otherwise, we can just leave it as no for the moment. But some other changes I would recommend you do in here that will make your life a little easier is change a couple of these settings right now. This avoids having to do them later when you have containers up and running and already using some of the resources. First thing we do for the data root is change it to an XFS vdisk. This is a better, more reliable format for us to have the vdisk running. The next thing I would do, if you can afford it, is actually give your vdisk size a much larger size. I'm going to stick with 20 gigabytes for the purpose of this, but on our main server, we've actually got this set to 100 gig. As I've said before, if you end up using all this space, it means either you don't have enough space in general, or you have something that's using up that space inside of your Docker containers. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. It's a bit early, but for now, just think about what size you want that to be so you don't have to change it around. It is worth noting though that it's easier to go up, but you cannot decrease. So don't go ahead and just slap in 200 gig and then expect to be able to set it back to 20. So go up in increments as you see fit rather than one big bulk attempt. Default location is fine, we don't have to change that, and so is the app data location as well. In fact, I would recommend you don't change these just so that it's consistent with many of the templates and containers that we'll use down the line. The other thing we'll need to do is enable the advanced view on the top right, and that will give us a couple of extra options that we can use to tweak. Docker log rotation, definitely make sure that is enabled. You can keep the default size of 50 megabytes and the number of files to 1. Then you have one of the next most important settings, the custom network types. Now, on our main server, we use Mac VLAN. However, you can set it up any way you wish. Anywhere in Unraid, if you just click the header, it will give you a little bit more explanation on what's going on. As it says here, IP VLAN is best when connection to the physical network is not needed. So that's ideal if we don't need it bridging directly and we want to contain Docker within the server. Mac VLAN allows direct connection to the physical network. Now, going through this really deserves its own video, so we won't go into it too much. There is links that you can then read up on if you like as well on the two different methodologies. We're going to keep it as Mac VLAN. That's how we like to operate, and then we apply custom Docker networks on top. With the next setting, host access to custom networks, we leave that disabled, okay? The reason why we would set up custom networks in our situation for security is we don't really want the host to interact with it at all. So leave that as is. The next setting I change is preserve user-defined networks to yes, and we can leave the rest as it is here for the moment. Go ahead and click apply. And that's it. We're going to leave the Docker service actually set to no, and we're not going to start it up yet until our array is ready for use. Now, the next thing we'll quickly do is set up a couple of shares, and that's going to help us plan ahead when we're thinking about media servers as well as the trash guides. So let's go ahead and do that now, and we'll have them ready to go. Go on to shares and add share. The first share we create is app data, arguably one of the most important to us. So we'll leave that as these settings, and we'll make sure the cache is set as the primary storage, and go ahead and click add. We're not looking to export anything via Samba shares, so we don't enable the export settings here, and we'll just leave it. And there we go, we have our app data location ready to roll. Now, as opposed to app data only needs one location, but for our media, we actually configure two locations. So the primary storage is the cache. However, the next storage is our array. So that means we want it to eventually make its way to the array. Then we select an allocation method. If you break this down, it gives you a bit of an example, but basically high water will spread the load across all of your disks at the same time, okay? Rather than filling up one and then moving on to the next. But if you prefer that option, you have those here as well. The split directory doesn't seem to matter to me as much these days. We have it configured to automatically split any directory as required. However, previously some of the benefits were that you could split, say for example, if you're talking about a TV show, you want it to split and put a TV show season by season across disks, or episode by episode across disks, or perhaps one show in its entirety lives on one disk. That's essentially what this kind of breaks down to. We don't really care, we just want maximum redundancy. If I lose a show, I'm not really that stressed anyway. So I leave it as automatically split and have it balance across all of our disks as evenly as it can. We include all of our disks into this process, and then we get down to the mover action. The mover is what, as the name suggests, moves everything from one location to another at a set schedule. We don't want stuff to stay on the array forever in terms of media. That can eventually make its way over, so we set it to move from the cache to the array. You can set it the other way around if you want the array to go to the cache as well. But we're going to leave it this way and go ahead and click add share. So for now, we're just going to leave those two shares set up, and we won't really do much else for the minute until our entire array is set up and ready. So now that we've planned some shares ahead of time, that pretty much wraps up today's video. We've performed a fresh installation, a boot, we've set the password, and we've built out our array, as well as gone through a couple of tweaks, tips, and tricks when it comes to the array and our Docker environment. Next time, we'll explore the dashboard, set up shares and users, and get ready for our apps that we want to install. If you liked today's video or the purpose of this project that we've done for you right here, please drop a comment below, give the video a like and a subscribe if you haven't before. If you have any more suggestions on how we can structure this program forward, anything you'd like to see us building from scratch, drop them in the comment below. We'll definitely target them. I'm reading every single comment and I appreciate every single view. So thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next IBRACORP video.